I drove a beer truck. My nickname is called the Beer Man.
I worked every day, and at night I would just go out by myself. I didn't have nobody to push me or anything. I did it on my own. I just went to work out every night. I said if I ever get a fair chance, I said they put a crack in their door, I was going to put my foot in and never let them close on me.
Like after I got out of high school and played in various leagues, semi-pro, played a lot of arena football. I was traveling with some guys out in New Orleans and stuff playing flag football. So I did a lot of things like that.
Traditional paths exist for a reason. They streamline the process, provide step-by-step instructions, and since they got a long track record of getting you to your destination, they allow you to easily track your progress and gauge the chances of your success. But these systems ain't perfect, and sometimes being groundbreaking means you slip through the cracks you created. But when certain roads get blocked, sometimes you need a different form of transportation altogether. This is the story of Michael Lewis, affectionately known as the Beer Man, a regular guy whose path to the league was so unique that all these years later it's still hard to believe. This is for those who on the grind and been on it for years, but when they look at their progress, they not where they want to be. This is for those who trying to carve out their own path to success, and once you get there, you hear the Wayne playing from the speakers.
Yeah, you'll never know quitter, 'cause I'ma go get her.
When Michael Lewis was a freshman at Grace King High School, the Louisiana native was a promising athlete. He had the speed that could change his family's situation if they can afford to wait another 7 to 8 years. But see, time wasn't a luxury that they could afford. So after 1 year of high school football, this freshman receiver full of gridiron potential had to hang up his cleats and get a job. It was supposed to just be for a little while, right? But before you knew it, man, the freshman was a damn senior, and he'd still never set foot back on the field because he was still working to help his family make money. Then as a 12th grader, that family would expand. That's right, as a high school senior, Michael had his first kid. Once he turned 18, he got a job at Budweiser, driving the now legendary beer truck. In case you're wondering, yeah, 18-year-olds can get their CDLs in every single state in this country, but according to smarttrucking.com, until they turn 21, they can only deliver within the state. As always, Mike just worked with his limitations and did what he could to support his new family. Despite no high school ball, he still dreamed of walking on in college, but he pushed that aside and took care of his responsibility. So he didn't go to college. Football was out the question. His life had taken a decisive turn when he was a freshman in high school. His dream was to play for his hometown Saints. But now he just drove a beer truck past the Superdome every day. So close yet so far. And this seemed like the closest he would ever get. Day in and day out, he worked 12-hour shifts, dropping off kegs to bars, clubs, and house parties. You could say Michael Lewis brought joy to a lot of people. He was the bringer of fun, the deliverer of joy. Meanwhile, the life he was living was anything but he got through it by never letting his passion burn out. With no college education and a kid to take care of, chances were he'd be working a job like this for the rest of his life. He still had goals, but how can you grind for your future when your day-to-day life doesn't afford you adequate time? Especially not to put towards an uncertain goal. How do you avoid giving up on the future and getting trapped in the present? The way you do it is extremely simple to understand, but can feel damn near impossible to actually execute. Basically, you grind for the future and the present at the same time. But be careful, cause most run out of energy before the grind's complete. But I would rather be in that group than to fall into this other one. The ones that's so scared of the work that they never even try. Now you got a section of people who are willing to put in the work if we know the odds are pretty good and we got something to fall back on. But would we grind as hard as we could for just the smallest glimmer of hope, the tiniest ray of sunshine peeking through the cracks in the blinds, for a 1 in a million chance to reach our goal? I'm not necessarily saying that you should, by the way, but I think that's the difference between okay results and this. The most recent number I've seen for the percentage of high school football players who make it to the NFL is 0.02%. Not even a full 1% of all high school players. So what do you think the odds are for a player who didn't even play in high school? The best version of NBA ball, the NBA playoffs, is almost here, bro, and you can hold the action in the palm of your hands. With my partners at DraftKings Sportsbook, who of course are today's video sponsor. So right now, new customers who bet $5 on anything will get $200 in bonus bets instantly. So why wait, bro? Download the DraftKings app now and sign up using my code FlemLo. The crown is yours. So again, new customers who bet $5 on anything get $200 in bonus bets instantly. But DraftKings got something for the returning customers too. We can get a no sweat NBA bet. Now, sports betting is not yet available in your state, bro. It's cool. You can still get yours with DraftKings Daily Fantasy. They have contests going on all the time that give you a shot to win cash prizes. So download the DraftKings Sportsbook app now. New customers, make sure you use promo code FlemLo. Bet $5 on any wager and get $200 in bonus bets instantly. Alright, bro. Once again, that's promo code FlemLo, only at DraftKings Sportsbook. When it comes to grinding for the present and the future at the same time, there's a common problem that you always gonna be faced with. The right now is gonna outrank the future 9 out of 10 times. And usually before long, the right now completely takes over. Look, I gotta eat today or tomorrow ain't promised. So when faced with a decision between the two, the present usually wins out. But the present gets greedy, the right now gets selfish, and he'll take more and more till he can suffocate your future, until your dreams of a better tomorrow are all but dead, and the only thing left in your mind is day-to-day survival. But not this time, bro. This the beer man we talking about. And while he respected the right now, he kept the present in check. Still in his early 20s, Michael took a group of friends up on an offer to play flag football. In those type of leagues, there's usually a bunch of guys who didn't get through the traditional football system. They're looking for an alternative, a second chance at glory, to prove that that 1 year in high school was not a fluke. Many of these dudes show up with some talent, but the stresses of adult life have eroded their bodies. Plus that high school injury didn't heal up as well as you thought, and they end up being much more limited than they thought they would. They can't sustain the passion they thought they felt before they took the field. But Michael understood that that glimmer of hope that he was holding on to play in the Superdome wasn't gonna be achieved with a lack of focus or any number of excuses, no matter how valid. After 12-hour shifts in flag football practice, he worked out every night as if he was in the league. He approached the flag football games like he was playing against the Falcons, and he torched them, bro, week in and week out. This put him on the radar for semi-pro team, and he soon graduated from flag to full pads. Now these leagues paid next to nothing, so semi-pro meant the time commitment of a pro, but the pockets of an amateur. From his senior year of high school until he was 26, he lived this tweener lifestyle of a full-time worker, dropping off beers and DBs. Then finally, one day, 8 years after high school, that's long enough to have gone to college, made the league, and retired. But 8 years after high school, he joined the local startup team who was joining the Indoor Football League. He became the soul of the Louisiana Bayou Beast, his local indoor football team, and they was pretty damn good. They played a full 14-game season, allowing Michael to get some real tape out there and accumulate some stats. They went 13-1 and won the championship, and Mike was named 1998 PIFL All-Star First Team, meaning simply, Michael Lewis was one of the best players in the league. Eventually, he moved up from indoor football to arena football. All that work and my dude ain't even made it outside. So if you think your grind has been slow, let this be your motivation.
Then Michael Lewis, the outstanding rookie, comes through and makes the catch for the touchdown. Extra point is up.
In the arena league, he was now making between $200 and $900 per football game. Given this relatively small amount and the lack of consistency, he was still working his day job driving the beer truck. He was making marginal progress, but progress nonetheless. But he wouldn't have to grind much longer before he finally caught a break. The Bayou Beast only existed for one season, and Mike parlayed that into a step up to arena ball. Then he played a year of arena ball for the New Jersey Red Dogs, and parlayed that into an NFL tryout. So after his performance in these lower tier leagues, Mike got a call from the Philadelphia Eagles. The beer truck driver had done the impossible and gotten the attention of the NFL. Now Mike was 5'8", bro, 170 pounds, and now 28 years old. That is not what teams look for. But he done so well in these leagues and looked so fast on film that the Eagles wanted to take a look at the dude up close. Once they did, they realized, while yeah, he was small in stature, through years of deliveries he'd filled out his grown man body. He was small but not weak. He was older but spry. Then he hops out his beer truck and runs a 4.3. Mike was always fast, but you know how you talk to dudes around the way and everybody say they run a 4.3 or a 4.4? Well, his was real and the Eagles saw it firsthand. He was just one of those guys who had slipped through the cracks. But the Eagles like what they see, so Mike sticks around with the team and even plays in the preseason, but he doesn't make the cut. On the way home, you would think he'd be pretty dejected to get so close and have it end so quickly. Mike picked up the phone and he called his homeboy, who was waiting on the other end, to try to console his friend. But to his surprise, man, Mike sounded excited. He had a crazy level of peace just knowing how far he'd gotten. Quote, "If I don't play another game, I live my dream. I played one NFL game. I'm satisfied." And while he might have been satisfied, he was not content. And you'll see what I mean here in just a damn second. See, Mike actually had another ace up his sleeve because the Eagles weren't the only team that he talked to. Mike's hometown Saints had called him as well and asked if he'd try out with them if it didn't work out with the Eagles. The Saints kept their word. Mike showed up and tried out and impressed them enough to be signed to the practice squad. They signed him in November of the 2000-2001 season. And in that same month, Mike turned 29 years old. So now he's on practice squad, right? Practice with the Saints. And this is when the NFL still had NFL Europe. And a lot of times they would use that like a G League. And they send players over to develop and just get game reps. He did well there, impressed them. So the next year they brought him into training camp to compete to be on the main roster. During camp, a Saints fan screamed, "Who's that little player? He looks like a kid," but he played like a grown man. In the preseason, his performance from NFL Europe carried over seamlessly. It may have even improved. So at 29 years old, about 14 years after he'd last played high school, Michael signed to the Saints. He made the final 53 as a wide receiver and primarily a kick return specialist. He was far too small, way too old, and didn't have the resume to be an NFL rookie. He was a beer truck driver, a regular Joe, yet somehow here he was. When Michael was cut from the Eagles, he called his friend and told him on the phone that he was satisfied. And maybe he felt like that was true at the time, but deep down he wanted more. Being there wasn't enough.
I say the thing is that I didn't want to be a fly-by-night story, like, come in and do something. I wanted to leave marks, and that's a mark that hasn't been touched right now, and I feel.
In his second NFL season, in 2002, he set an NFL record for combined kick and punt return yards with 2,432 yards. He led the league in punt return yards, led in kick return yards, and of course he led in all-purpose yards as well. We've seen Cinderella stories of players making the league against all odds and having high-budget movies made about him. Years back, it was announced that the Beer Man would get one, but there hasn't been any news on it in quite some time. And while guys like Vince Papale has an amazing story, the Beer Man didn't just make the league.
I wanted to leave marks, and that's a mark that hasn't been touched right now, and I feel good about it.
In 2002, he was named a Pro Bowler, and even more impressively, a first-team All-Pro member. Some of your favorite star players ain't never did that. First team All-Pro is the highest honor you can get in the league. It's an amazing feat. He didn't just make it. He got there and achieved on the highest level. He wasn't just a cool story. This dude was a player. And if nothing else, that's the thing I want people to understand. Despite being so small and starting his career at 29 years old, he still played 7 years in the league and was a top tier return specialist for 5 of the 7. Imagine what he could have done if he had came in younger. The Saints saw the Beer Man's journey to their roster and then his subsequent time actually spent on their team as such a great representation of what they want to be about that they made him a team ambassador when he was done playing. And he still holds that title until this day, which means in 2009 when the Saints won the Super Bowl, guess who took home a Super Bowl ring? A few years after that, he was inducted into the Saints Hall of Fame to be immortalized within the organization. He was driving past the Superdome in his beer truck at 28, and then at 29, he was out there on the field. At 30, he was a Pro Bowler and an All-Pro. And at 45, he was in the Saints Hall of Fame.
The phone call saying I was going in, and I had to hold my breath not to tell anybody. That's just like when I made the Saints team, I got a phone call from Ricky Porter, and he told me, hey, I want to be the first to tell you that you're on the team, but you can't tell nobody until it's been done on the news tonight. I'm like, how you give somebody that good information and they got to hold it into themselves? Like, I'm like, you know, I'm so excited, and I want to tell everybody that, you know what?
He took one of the most unique paths to the league I've ever seen, and it took him years of his career just to get there. This man grinded through league after league and finally reached the top, and still had enough left to put together a real career. I wonder what Michael Lewis could have done if he didn't have to play flag, if he didn't have to play semi-pro, if he was able to play in high school, to get a college scholarship, take a traditional route. We could be talking about a whole different caliber of player. But maybe if you looked into his future as a high school freshman, this was his only one-in-a-million path to the NFL. Maybe his unique life experiences better prepared him for an NFL career and gave him the drive that he needed. Maybe the fact that he hadn't stacked up injuries throughout high school and college before his body had matured played in his favor. And while it forced him to take a longer route, maybe that was time his body needed to fully mature. One thing's for sure, the path he took was the only path to becoming the beer man. And maybe that's worth more than just taking a normal route. Yeah, I think the harder path is often the best. Traditional paths exist for a reason, but alternative paths make for much better stories. If you're off the beaten path in your life right now, stay ready, because your beer man moment might be around the corner.